All right, let's get right into it. We all spend so much time building our websites, writing amazing content, making them look perfect. But what does Google really think about it? They're pretty much your most important visitor, right? Well, that's what we're digging into today, using Google Search Console to get the straight, unvarnished truth. Just let that sink in for a second. Your homepage, your best-selling product, that article you spend weeks on. What if, in Google's eyes, it's just invisible? And this isn't some hypothetical what-if scenario. Nope. This is a super common problem that Google Search Console is literally built to find and fix.
So, here's the game plan. We're going to run a full digital checkup on your site. First, we'll talk about why trying to do SEO without this tool is like flying completely blind. Then, we'll tackle the invisibility problem. After that, we'll check your site's technical vital signs. Look for any code red, drop everything warnings, and finally, make sure Google isn't just wasting its time on all the wrong parts of your site.
Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation. What even is this tool, and why is it so non-negotiable?
Think of Google Search Console, or GSC as you'll hear it called, as your direct, private hotline straight to Google. This isn't about marketing spin or vanity metrics. It is pure, raw data. GSC is what tells you about indexing problems, crawl errors, and even massive penalties. I'm not kidding when I say every single professional SEO audit on the planet starts right here. And this quote just nails it. Without GSC, you are just guessing. You have no clue how Google is actually crawling your site, what pages it likes, which ones it can't even find, or, and this is a big one, if it's flagged you for a serious violation. You're basically trying to navigate a maze with a blindfold on. Okay, so you're connected. Fantastic. Now let's tackle the single most critical issue GSC usually uncovers, pages that you know exist but are completely invisible to Google. We're going to run through the 4 main reasons this happens, rapid-fire style. First up, your page might be blocked. This is a huge one. See, you've got this little file on your site called robots.txt, and sometimes it can accidentally tell Google, hey, do not enter this area. Well, what if that area has your most important pages? Yep, they will never, ever get indexed. It's honestly one of the most expensive and easily fixed mistakes in all of SEO. All right, here's another classic. If Google tries to visit one of your key pages but gets instantly redirected somewhere else, all the ranking power that page has built up can get watered down or just lost entirely. The page you want to rank must be the final destination that Google actually sees. Now, this one is an absolute command. It's a tiny piece of code on a page, but it tells Google, do not, under any circumstances, add this page to your search results. It doesn't matter how amazing your content is, that little no index tag is the final word. End of story. And finally, the good old 404 error. If Google is clicking around on your own website and follows a link that leads to a dead end, that is a massive red flag. It tells Google your site has a broken structure and it's a bad experience. You're basically leading your most important visitors straight into a brick wall.
Now, inside GSC, you'll see these 2 statuses, and you have to know the difference. Discovered, not indexed, is basically Google saying, hey, I see your page exists, but I don't really trust it yet. Maybe the content is a little thin, or not enough other pages are linking to it. But crawled, not indexed? Whoa, that's way more serious. That's Google saying, yep, I've visited, I've read it, and I've decided it's just not good enough for my search results. That's a direct slap on the wrist for low quality.
Okay, so we've looked at the page-level problems. Now let's zoom out a bit. Because beyond individual pages, GSC gives us a fantastic look at the site's overall technical health. Think of this part like checking a patient's vital signs. You got to get these foundational things right. So GSC reports on 3 main vitals. First, your XML sitemap. This is literally the roadmap you hand to Google, so you need to make sure it's been submitted and doesn't have any errors. Second, HTTPS. A secure site is just non-negotiable for trust these days. And third, Core Web Vitals, which is how Google measures the actual experience people have on your site. Like, does it feel fast? Let's make that last point a little more real. A number like this, 3.8 seconds, could be your score for something called largest contentful paint. It basically means it takes almost 4 full seconds for the main content on your page to load. Come on, in our world of instant everything, that's an absolute eternity. GSC gives you this real-world data, and if you ignore it, you can bet your rankings are going to suffer. And now, we get to the really serious stuff. These are the alarms that, if you ever see them in your Google Search Console account, you need to drop everything you're doing, and fix them immediately. These are the true code red issues. Seeing the words manual action is pretty much an SEO's worst nightmare. This means an actual human being at Google has physically reviewed your site and decided that you're breaking their rules. This isn't some algorithm making a mistake. This is a person handing you a penalty.
And that's exactly why it's so terrifying. You can have the best content in the world, the fastest website, the most brilliant strategy, and none of it matters. A manual action is like a kill switch. It can get your site completely booted from the search results until you fix whatever they flagged and literally beg for reconsideration.
Right up there with manual actions, you gotta watch for two other emergencies. Security issues, like your site getting hacked, will destroy user trust and get you flagged in a heartbeat. And the removals tool. You have to be so careful in there because if you accidentally ask Google to remove an important page, that request trumps everything else.
Okay, for our final checkup point, let's talk about efficiency. See, Google doesn't have endless resources. It gives your website a certain amount of attention, which we call a crawl budget. And you really want to make sure it's spending that precious budget on your best pages, not on a bunch of junk.
This quote hits on a really critical idea: index bloat. This is what happens when you let Google crawl and index thousands of totally unimportant pages, like old tag pages, weird search filter URLs, or technical files. All this bloat just waters down your site's overall quality. Google starts to see your site as mostly low-value fluff, and that ends up hurting the rankings of the pages that you actually care about.
And this chart shows you exactly what that waste looks like in practice. On a site that's not well optimized, Google might only spend about 40% of its time on your actual important content. The other 60% of its attention, its valuable crawl budget, is just flushed down the drain on error pages, endless redirect chains, and other internal junk. That is a massive amount of wasted opportunity. So what are the biggest culprits? Well, GC's crawl reports will show you. It could be old links from other sites that point to pages that don't exist anymore. It might be that Googlebot is getting stuck trying to crawl a bunch of internal system files that have nothing to do with your content. Or it could be frequent server errors, which just screams to Google that your site is unreliable and not worth visiting very often. So after this whole checkup, we're left with this one big question. Google Search Console isn't just a dashboard full of charts and numbers. It's the voice of your website, as heard by Google. It's telling you exactly where it's healthy, where it's broken, and where it's completely invisible. The only question left is, are you listening?